Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the Buddy Kick and doing something just really simple, and that's getting yourself a little battery tender SAE plug lead connected on this. I have them running on pretty much every motorcycle and scooter I own. Part of that's because we get into the winter, it's nice to be able to switch them on and off of a tender. On the big bike, sometimes I even run heated gear off of it. But what this is just a hard connection to your 12-volt battery inside the bike or the scooter. And traditionally, it's used for trickle charging or slow charging your bike over the winter. So as we get into the cooler months for everybody up north here and the snow starts to look at falling, you can take this, you can leave it in your garage with the battery tender connected. You can get yourself a nice little battery tender junior. You can go for a little fancier Optimate. Plenty of other options from even, Harbor Freight, places like that will sell you a battery charger. Personally, big fan of the battery tender junior and my little Optimate battery trickle charger. They've worked great for me on the street bikes, the track bikes, the scooters, you name it, they do the trick. But we're gonna get one of these installed here on our Buddy Kick. Very simple. You're going to open the seat, you're gonna remove a few bolts, and then you're going to wire in your battery tender plug. Find yourself a little place to hide it. So we'll get in, we'll take a look at what bolts we're going to need to take out, we'll take a look at what tools we're going to need, and let's go ahead and knock this out. With our scooter accessible, either up on a bench, which is going to make it a little easier for me just because I'm tall, or down on the ground and on your center stand, you're going to go ahead, you're going to pop open your rear seat. And what we're going to need for this task is going to be a Phillips head screwdriver and a 10mm wrench. If you have a little ratcheting wrench, those never hurt. They make things a little bit easier, but you can do this with the 10mm wrench from Harbor Freight or anywhere else. We're going to remove 2 screws here to access our battery panel. Then we're going to remove an additional 2 screws, which will let us slide the battery forward so we can access it and we can get things wired up. So let's go ahead, let's take a look at those screws and what we have to do. 1 screw, 2 screw, 3 screw, 4 screw. Grab your Phillips head. Don't lose your screws because you don't want to run those over with the tire or have to find them again. This panel right here pulls up and moves out of the way. Now we've got, you can kind of see them here, 1 screw and 2 screw. So what we're going to do is unscrew these 2 that we just saw. And again, don't drop those screws because they do want to fall right down underneath things. And now we have the ability to start cheating our battery forward. Let's see if we can't get you a better shot. We've pulled out our 2 screws here, and now we can just sort of wiggle and slide and cheat our battery so we can access our negative terminal. And here, covered under the plastic, is our positive terminal. This is where you can either use the 10mm ratchet or a Phillips head screwdriver. Probably doesn't hurt to come in this way and just sort of keep some tension on the battery tray because it does want to slide forward, or it does want to slide rearward, I should say. And we will go ahead. Once this is all the way loose, it pulls up. We're going to take our battery lead, our negative terminal, and if yours has this little pop there, we're going to have that facing up just so it's not in the way. And we're simply going to get that into the battery terminal, grab our screwdriver, and now we're going to retighten all the way down so that it picks up. There we go. Now that that's done, our negative terminal is connected. We're going to do the same thing on the positive side, but we want to make sure that we don't ever ground out our positive terminal to any metal on the scooter. We'll try doing it from this side just to give you a little bit more of a shot, but the same thing. Unscrew this all the way so that it pulls free. Take your terminal and connect it. Now there's probably really good advice about what side of your connection that should go on. I like to put them on the outside if I remember. I did on this side, I didn't on the other. Take that. And again, you're just going to screw this in so that it picks up the little threaded block in there and eventually tightens up. For it to get you the better shot, I am sort of shoving everything back. But now our battery tender lead is connected. We can test to make sure it's connected properly. I've got this neat little Amazon thing that'll tell me my battery voltage when it's connected. So we just go ahead and connect this up. And we can see there 12.52 or 12.5. If I start the scooter, we can see that's running closer to 13 volts, 13.3, 13.4, which is what we want to see. So what that really tells me is that it's hooked up. Something like this is also great because it's got a couple of USB ports if you want to charge things off of your scooter or your motorcycle. Plug that back in. And now all we're going to do is cap off our end so that it's protected. The next question is, where do we want this battery tender lead to run? You could run this battery tender lead up probably through here and cut a little notch. That's not a bad idea. You don't want to just leave it dangling down here because under there, right, that's coming in from where the wheel's turning. So that's not a great idea. Another option we have, let's take a look at this. We're down here on the left side of the scooter, airbox, CVT cover. Here's your pop-out passenger peg. Tuck that back in. Now my initial thought is to find somewhere to zip tie this, and then I can just tuck this right up in there like that. And it's totally out of the way until I need it. When I need it, I can just reach a finger in and pull it out. So I think this is what I'm going to go with. I may try to get up underneath here and see if I can't find a good place to run at least a single cable tie just to hold this in place. We can kind of see back here, we've got cables and some wires, so we don't really want to get involved with those, but just trying to find a place up here that I might be able to zip tie this to that doesn't require drilling a hole. For now, I think we're going to put a zip tie right around this mount here. This guy right here. Since we want this to look as pretty as possible, I've got a nice long black zip tie. And we're just going to poke it through this way. Maybe put that little curve on it like this. Give us a little help. And just try to feed it through. Ah, there we go. We can see it wiggling there on the back end. So now I'm going to shove my hand back there and try to grab it. That would certainly work better if I had daintier hands. But of the many things I was given, small hands was not one of them. So, simply set our zip tie up. What we can see here, I've got the cable captured with the zip tie, so I can pull it tight. There we go. Come in with my little nippers, clip that off, and there we go. I've got a battery tender connection. It'll tuck up right in here. It's a pretty good fit right there. And I don't think it's just going to pop out on its own. Simply grab it like that, and I can plug it in while it's in the garage. Tuck it away, and it's out of sight, out of mind. Even here, I can barely tell it's there, and I know I'm the one who did it. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Let's go up and button things back up inside the scooter. So we've got our cables run down here, tucked out of the way, and we're going to push that battery box all the way back until we can see these two little screw holes are lined up. Then I can grab my Phillips and I can screw these the rest of the way in. Make sure you don't cross thread them. You don't want to have to undo that down the road. With our 2 screws here, tightened all the way down, nice and even, we take our plate, and again, we can see these little indents here. Those line up with the little ears on that side. All we have to do is screw the last 2 in. Same thing on the other side. Battery tender installed. Insert our fancy protective cover. Refill with whatever junk you keep in here if you're anything like the rest of us. And you're all done. You've now got a battery tender hardwired to the battery on your Buddy Kick. That'll keep it nice and trickle charged all winter, or give you the ability to run an accessory if you need to. And just like that, scooter's all done. We've got a hardwired battery connection there for tending over the winter or for any other connection needs you may have. You could run that into the bucket of the scooter if you don't want to mess around with putting it underneath there. I wouldn't fault you one bit. For me, seems like a good way to do it, and that sort of matches where I have a battery tender run on every other vehicle I own. I tend to run them out down the bottom somewhere. I like to do it on the right side, but in this case, we'll do it on the left side. I think if I had known everything I knew going into this, and I had all the parts, which means a battery tender connector and a Phillips head screwdriver, and maybe a zip tie, I could have been done with this in 5 minutes flat. We'll see how long the video turned out, but hopefully this helps some of you guys going into winter as you prepare to winterize your scooters. Remember, the best advice that I've ever heard for winter storage is try to find non-ethanol fuel if you can. Non-ethanol especially if you have a carbureted motorcycle. If you have a carb motorcycle, drain your float bowl and then run the scooter till it dies. If you have a fuel-injected scooter, not nearly as important, but make sure you run it. You can put some stable, some seafoam, whatever you want to put in there. Keep the scooters somewhere where they're going to be safe and protected. Put a battery tender, a trickle charger of some sort on them to keep those batteries nice and topped up so you're not replacing them in the spring. And you should be all set. Make sure if you need an oil change, maybe it's a good time to do that. You can always just wait until the spring. It's pretty cheap. You could do one now and you could do one in the spring. Whatever makes you happy. Plenty of other people have talked about winterizing your scooters, winterizing your motorcycles. I'm just here to help you make sure you know how to do work on them without breaking anything. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.